YouTube, welcome back to the channel, man. So the Warzone 2 Season 5 update just released, and with that came a ton of nerfs and buffs to the current meta weapons. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over the updated top 5 loadouts that you should be using going into Season 5. But really quick, before we do jump into the loadouts, as always, I want to shout out today's Noti gang. And of course, if you guys are new around here, man, make sure you hit that subscribe button and let's get into it. So getting straight into the updated top 5 loadouts that you should be rocking in Season 5 right now, we're going to start it off with the TAQ-V, man. Now, the TAQ-V got a huge buff in the Season 5 update, and it honestly might be the go-to long-range weapon in Season 5 right now. So the first attachment we want to throw on this TAQ-V is the Seiken Tread 40 muzzle. It's going to give you that vertical and horizontal recoil control to bring down the recoil already just off one attachment. And for the tuning on the Seiken Tread 40, man, you want to max out the recoil control and the recoil stabilization. Like I said, already making our TAQ-V an absolute beam. And next up, we do want to throw on the 18-inch precision 6 barrel. This is going to give you damage range, hip fire accuracy, and more bullet velocity, getting the TAQ-V closer to hit scan. And for the tuning on the precision barrel, you want to max out the recoil steadiness and the damage range to give you as much range as possible. For the optic, now this does come down to personal preference, but for me, I'm going to be rocking the AIM-OP on my TAQ-V. I've just always felt like the AIM-OP is one of the best scopes in Warzone 2 for those medium to long range gunfights. And for my tuning on the AIM-OP scope, I max out the aim down sight speed tuning and the far. The close and far bar on the bottom is just your FOV once you're scoped in, so you always want to max out the far tuning here. And next up, we do want to throw on the TAQ Ripper 56 underbarrel. This gives you more aiming idle stability, hip fire accuracy, and again more recoil stabilization. At this point, the TAQ-V is a laser, and just like the other attachments, we're going to tune the TAQ Ripper for recoil stabilization and aiming idle stability. And to finish off the TAQ-V, man, of course, we want the 50 round mag so we can get as many kills as possible without having to reload quite as much. And here you guys have the full TAQ-V loadout that I would put as the #1 long range weapon in Warzone 2 Season 5. The TAQ-V got a ton of buffs in the most recent update, so I would highly recommend using that right now. And let's go ahead and jump into the second loadout. Now, coming in at the #2 spot, I got you guys another great long range weapon that you could be using right now, the ISO HEMLOCK. Now, the ISO HEMLOCK did not get touched in the most recent update, so it is still a very good assault rifle to be using. So the first attachment you want to put on the ISO HEMLOCK is going to be the X10 Havoc 90 muzzle for the vertical and horizontal recoil control, and this is going to drastically reduce the recoil on the ISO already. And we want to max out the recoil tunings on the X10 Havoc 90 muzzle, man. I have maxed out the recoil stabilization and the recoil control, already making my ISO an absolute beam. And coming up next, make sure you guys do put on the Fielder T50 barrel. This gives you damage range, bullet velocity, recoil control, and hip fire accuracy. This is by far the best barrel to rock on the ISO HEMLOCK right now. And on the barrel, as always, you want to max out the recoil steadiness tuning and the damage range tuning. This is just going to give the ISO super low recoil and as much range as possible for us. Now, for the optic on the ISO, again, I'm rocking the AIM-OP just like I rocked on my TAQ-V loadout. The AIM-OP is just my favorite optic in Warzone. Now, this all comes down to personal preference. You could go with a red dot here, whichever optic you prefer, but for me, I always rock the AIM-OP. And just like on my TAQ-V class, I'm going to tune the AIM-OP scope for aim down sight speed and far. And next up, we want to put on the high velocity rounds on the ISO. This is going to give you extra bullet velocity and really bring the ISO a lot closer to hit scan. And for my tuning on the high velocity rounds, you want to max out the damage range and the bullet velocity. This is just going to make the ISO hit a lot harder and give you a lot more range. And then lastly, of course, we do want to throw on the 45 round mag to give us the maximum ammo capacity possible on this ISO HEMLOCK build. And here you guys have my full recommended ISO HEMLOCK going into Season 5. This is going to be easily one of the best assault rifles for you to be using right now. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the third loadout. Now, coming in at the #3 spot, I got you guys with an insane MP7 build. Now, the MP7 did get a ton of buffs in the Warzone Season 5 update, and it might be the best SMG in the game now. The LACHMANN sub got a ton of nerfs. The ISO 45 got a ton of nerfs as well. So I'm thinking the MP7 is going to be the go-to meta SMG now. Now, jumping straight into the MP7 build, man, we're going to throw on the Spiral V3.5 flash hider muzzle for the recoil steadiness and the muzzle flash concealment. And for our tuning on the flash hider muzzle, man, we're going to max out the recoil smoothness and the gun kick control. This is already going to make the MP7 a beam. And coming up next, we're going to throw on the VLK laser for the aim down sight speed speed, aiming stability, and sprint to fire speed. This is just going to really up the mobility of our MP7. And for the laser tuning, make sure you guys max out the aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed tunings. This is just going to make your MP7 so much faster. And coming up next, we want to throw in the collapse stock for the aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, movement speed, and hip recoil control. Again, this is just going to really up the mobility and the overall speed of our MP7. And next up, we're going to throw in a rear grip, the Schlager soldier grip for the sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed, just making this MP7 ridiculously fast at this point. And on the Schlager rear grip, man, we're going to max out the aim down sight and sprint to fire speed tunings again. This MP7 is just going to be ridiculously fast by now. And lastly, of course, we do want to throw in the 50 round mag for the MP7. Now, you could go 60 round mag here, but it is going to be noticeably slower. So I like to rock the 50 to keep that mobility high. And here you guys have the full MP7 build that I'm going to be rocking going into Season 5. Like I said, the MP7 got a ton of buffs, and it honestly might be the best SMG in the entire game now. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the 4th loadout. Now, coming into the number 4 spot, I got you guys another great SMG that you could be rocking going into Season 5. It's going to be the VAZNEV 9K. Now, the VAZNEV did not get touched in the Season 5 update. It is still just as good as always. So that's why I would recommend you guys definitely rocking it right now. So just like on our MP7, we're going to throw on the Spiral V3.5 flash hider muzzle on our VAZNEV for that muzzle flash concealment and the extra recoil steadiness. Now for the tuning on the flash hider muzzle, we're going to tune it for aim down sight speed and gun kick control. I have a negative 0.80 and a plus 0.19 here. This is going to greatly reduce the recoil on the VAZNEV. And next up, we want to throw in the FSS OV laser for that aim down sight speed, aiming idle stability, and sprint to fire speed. This is really going to up the mobility and the overall speed of our VAZNEV. And for the laser tuning, as you guys can see, man, I tuned it for aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed. I just want the maximum speed on our VAZNEV as possible. And next up, we want to throw on the Ultrazat stock. I might be butchering that name, I'm sorry, but this is going to give you aim walking speed and even better sprint speed, just upping the mobility of the VAZNEV a ton. And for the stock tuning, we're going to go with an aim down sight speed and aim walking speed tuning. I have a negative 3.12 and a negative 1.20. Again, just making the VAZNEV as fast as possible. And next up, we want to put on the overpressured rounds for the VAZNEV, which is going to make your enemies flinch when you shoot them, making it harder for them to hit you, and it's really going to save you in some of those sticky situations. On the overpressured rounds, make sure you guys do max out the bullet velocity and damage range. This is going to make the VAZNEV hit a lot harder. And then lastly, as always, we want to put on the maximum ammo capacity possible, which is going to be 45 on the VAZNEV. Now here you guys have the full VAZNEV build that I would recommend to you guys going into Season 5. And let's go ahead and jump into the 5th loadout. Now for the 5th and final loadout of today's video, man, I got you guys a LACHMANN sub setup. Now the LACHMANN sub did get slightly nerfed in the Warzone Season 5 update, but it is still one of the best SMGs in the entire game right now. So we're going to go ahead and build you guys the best class setup for it. So the first thing we need on the LACHMANN sub is the L38 Falcon barrel for the movement and aim down sight speed. This is by far the best barrel to rock on your LACHMANN sub. And on the Falcon barrel, we're going to max out the damage range and recoil steadiness tuning just to make the MP5 a beam and give us as much range as possible. Next up, we want to throw in the VLK laser for the aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and sprint to fire speed, just upping the overall mobility a ton on our LACHMANN sub. And for the tuning on the laser, man, you want to max out both of the speed tunings, the aim down sight and sprint to fire speed, just making the MP5 as fast as possible. Next up, you want to throw in the LACHMANN TCG-10 rear grip for the extra recoil control, making the MP5 even more of a laser. And just like our laser tunings, we are going to max out the aim down sight and sprint to fire speed on our rear grip tunings as well. At this point, our MP5 is just a super fast and very high mobility SMG. And just like on the VAZNEV, we're going to throw on the overpressured rounds to give our enemies flinch when we shoot them, helping to keep us alive in some of those gunfight situations. And just like on the VAZNEV, we're going to tune the overpressured rounds for maximum bullet velocity and damage range, helping us get some kills at as far away as possible with our MP5. And then lastly, of course, we want the 40 round mag. Now you could go 50 round mag here, but like I said before, the MP5 will be noticeably slower when you use the 50 round mag. So that's why I rock the 40, but if you're okay with it, try the 50 out. Let me know what you guys think. But personally, I'm going to be rocking the 40 round mag here. And here you guys have the full LACHMANN sub build that I would recommend going into Season 5. Like I said, it did get a bit of a nerf, but it's still the LACHMANN sub, and it's always going to be one of the best guns in the game. with that being said, that is going to be the end of today's video, man. I hope you guys did enjoy. As always, if you liked today's video, make sure you leave a like. And if you are new around here, man, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you guys in the next one, man. Peace.